Welcome to my humble abode. Picture yourself coming into my home on a Sunday evening to the rich aroma of bread baking in the oven. Envision that warm and toasty feeling as you sit to savor the buttery softness of this bread. This is what Sundays felt like growing up with 14 siblings. Let's relive this moment together as I teach you how to make a whole wheat loaf of bread. I have been making bread for the past 30 years. The first 2 years was under the guardianship of my mom. Now, this love for bread making, this tradition that I inherited from my mom has now been passed on to my own children who now makes bread for me. So now that we know, let's combine these ingredients. Combine the ingredients. Here we have flour, the dry mixture, and over here we have the wet mixture. So now that we know what we are getting ourselves into, let's dive in. The dry ingredients consist of 2 cups of white flour, 1 cup of whole wheat flour, a tablespoon of sugar, a tablespoon of salt, and we're going to add yeast. Now, the yeast is very important because yeast activates when you mix it into your dough, because this is a rapid rise yeast. So it will become activated. But sometimes if you have yeast in your cupboard that is old, you may want to prove your yeast, right? Proving your yeast simply means adding warm water to your yeast separately, apart from the flour, separately, and putting some sugar. Sugar is what actually activates the yeast. So let's dive in and mix these ingredients. We're going to mix and knead the ingredients together. I already have here some butter, and I have milk. So here's what we're going to warm this for like 30 seconds. We will warm it for 30 seconds. We want this mixture to be as warm as you would bathe a baby in. Okay, so 1 second. Give me 1 second so that this is nice and warm. And what we will do is add that ingredient, add the mixture, the warm mixture. It cannot be too hot. Too hot is going to kill your yeast. So we want this mixture to be nice and warm. You can actually put your finger to test. And it is nice and warm. It is like the temperature that you would bathe a baby in. And we will put this wet ingredient into the dry ingredients. And we will mix it. Actually, I have a recipe that I would load so that you can actually see. All right. So we will combine this ingredient. Combine it, and then we're going to mix. We're going to knead. You'll knead this. Well, let's get it together. Let's try to get it together. Now, you may need sometimes a little extra water, which is fine. A little extra water. So I'm going to put my hands in and knead this. I think I need a little bit more water because we don't want our dough to be too tough, to be too stiff. We want a nice soft dough. A nice soft dough, okay? A nice soft dough. I want you to also note that we should also have some extra flour, so that we have consistency with the dough. We don't want the dough to be too wet, too sticky, and all of that, okay? So now that our dough is all mixed together, I will now put some flour on the counter and I will transfer my dough to the counter. All right. So here is where the magic begins. This is where you build the elasticity in the dough. You build elasticity, you build the gluten in the dough. So watch carefully as I knead the dough. You see how I spread the dough out a bit? I am now going to use my heel, the heel of my hand, to press into the dough, not into the counter, to press into the dough and just move it around the counter. I will also use my fingertips to grab the dough and pull it back to me. So look carefully as I do this. This is building the elasticity in the dough and gluten. Yeah, so roll up your sleeve and do it. Do it. Let's experience this difference together. The difference of this dough, this bread actually being so much tastier than store-bought bread. Now, this is where you build the taste in the dough, okay? So you got to knead this dough really good. You have to knead it. You see how I'm pushing the dough away from me with the heel of my hands? I am pushing it on the counter. I am not going into it like that. No, I am pushing it away from me, right? And I'm using the heel to actually do that. If your dough is too sticky, what you can do is just put some flour. Right now, my dough is fine. My dough is fine. You must knead this really good, because this is where the flavor in the dough comes in. So you must knead it for about 10-15 minutes. You knead, all right? And as you knead the dough, what you do, you bring it together in a bowl like this. You bring the dough together. This is not done properly. It has to knead some more. But for now, I'm going to leave it like this. So this is what kneading the dough looks like. All right. So when this dough is actually finished kneading properly, we do a first rising. We put it to raise so that it will double its size. So I actually have a dough that is already prepared and waiting. So I will show you. Oh, wow, wow. Now that our dough has been risen beautifully, I will now take it out. You can deflate your dough just like this. Okay, deflate your dough. We will take it out. And at this point, you can let your dough raise. You can allow your dough to raise for a little. Let's move this bowl so you can see better. And what we are going to do now is actually shape the dough, right? We are going to shape the dough. I'm going to show you how we shape the dough. So what I'm doing is pressing the dough out, sort of like in a rectangular form, right? You see this? It's pressed out. Now I'm going to take the tips of my fingers and bring the top of the dough into the middle of the dough, like this. And I'm pressing it in. Pressing it in. There are many ways to shape a dough, but this is very simple, okay? This is very simple. Now I take the bottom part of the dough and I enclose with my fingertips. Enclose with my fingertips. Do you see that? All right. Now I'm going to take both hands together like this and I'm going to bring my dough in. I'm going to bring my dough in. Do you see that? You know that this dough has enough elasticity in it. It has the gluten that is built, the protein. You see how the dough is holding its form? Now, some people can test their dough to see if there's enough air in the dough. All right? What they do is clip a little piece off and put it in water to see if it floats or sinks. If it floats, there's enough air in the dough. So now we're going to put this dough into the pan like this. Just push it down, make it fit the pan. And this is what we call our second rising. I am going to cover this dough and allow it to raise. I also have another dough that is already risen. Look at this. Do you see this? It has doubled the size in the pan. So now that we are almost finished, our journey is almost over as we put this dough into the oven to bake to golden perfection. All right. I also have for you another dough, a bread actually, that is all complete. This dough is all complete and ready to be eaten, to be shared with family and friends, to make a lunch for work. It is really a great and wonderful experience, combining just a few ingredients to make this delicious loaf of bread. Think about it. I invite you all to join me in this journey in making bread. All right, so now that we are finished, I would like you to sample this bread. So I'm going to cut a slice of this bread. Look at that. Look at that, my dear friends. Look at this. Look at this. You see that nice softness? The gluten has been built in the bread. This bread could be eaten with butter, with anything. It can also be eaten. Oh my goodness, just like that. So, thank you all for joining me in this journey of bread making. I invite all of you to roll up your sleeves and create a tradition in your own family. Let's make bread together. Bye.